You live in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I do live in Pennsylvania. I am 25 years old. I just graduated with my master's this past May, and now I just started my job.
Nice. What did you study?
My master's was in bioinformatics, so it's under the computer science department. And right now, I'm like an associate systems developer, so just starting out.
Woohoo! You just started. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, it's all downhill from here. And now it's just 9 to 6,
I've
and
already I've already thought I'm like, oh my God, I'm working a desk job. I'm just a cog in the system. Like I need to break free. It's only been my first week.
are you getting those jitters by now? Like you probably are. Like, are you asking yourself those questions? Like, man, is this how it's gonna be like the rest
I
of my
know it's
life?
a little preemptive, but I'm already asking like, oh my God, what's the purpose of my life? I'm just going to work and coming back and being so tired. So
I've been working for about 7 years now, but especially in the beginning, the first year was so difficult because of that. But even now, 7 years later, I ask that same question: Is it this? Am I going to be sitting in this office my whole life? But we have to be
exactly.
grateful too.
No, yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
like
bottom
really
line.
blessed as well. So I'm just like, okay, and then every now and then I'm like, okay, you need to kill your jets because you're lucky and you're blessed. So I'm like, okay.
In 2018, the video gaming industry is on track to hit $138 billion of global revenue, according to a market forecast report from Newzoo. The same research forecasts this revenue to explode more and more each year, projecting about $180 billion by 2021. So compare this to the global TV and video revenue, and you'll find that there's a strong chance of the gaming industry to overtake TV and films across the world, opening up all sorts of opportunities in a realm that many adults, especially desi adults, haven't really taken seriously so far. Today's two guests are about to argue that this is going to change. Our first guest is new. She goes by the online nickname Saf, and she's a gaming enthusiast living in the US. And our second guest is Hassan, who has joined some of our previous episodes, and he's a competitive gamer himself. Hassan and Saf, they're both gamers. You guys used to play together a lot, right? What was it,
Hmm.
Overwatch last year?
Yeah, we still play Overwatch every now and then.
I know Hassan plays competitively in tournaments and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Every now and then. And then Saf, have you ever played like in a tournament?
Good question. Okay, so I do play competitively, as in, like, if the game has a ranked mode, I will go into it. But one tournament I did go to, and this is a funny story. It was my freshman year of college. It was like a local tournament, and I really wanted to go. It was for Halo, actually. So then
Yeah.
I had to lie to my parents, and then I had to go over. And then it just took long because a lot of these local tournaments are kind of like disorganized, and no one knows what's happening.
Hmm.
So then my parents thought that I was at university the whole time, and I'm like playing, and I was like one of the few girls there, obviously. And then this is a side note, but I really had to think about because there's just going to be a whole bunch of sweaty gamers there. So I had to figure out how to handle my hijab situation, which is a whole other story. So I went, and then when it came time to actually play in the team, like when we had like a group of four, I think, and we had to play team games, that's exactly when my parents started calling me, and I told my brothers, I'm like, get me the hell out of here. So I didn't even get to play.
Huh.
And then I had to like rush home. So does that count? I don't know, but that was my one attempt at playing at a tournament.
What happened? You started playing in a team and what? You just got uncomfortable?
Like we were like so basically they started off playing free for all. So I played in the free for all.
Oh.
I think I made it to the second round or something like that. And then I think they did 2v2s, and then we
Hmm.
had to do 4v4. And when it got to the 4v4 part, it was so late into the night, and I was like, "Oh my lord, this is
Oh,
taking forever." And
right.
like my brothers were like, "Dude, mom and papa are asking about you. We need to pick you up right now." So then I had to
Oh
go. I
no.
told my teammates, I was like, "Bye, I'm sorry, I can't."
Sorry, gotta
And like
drop
they
off.
don't
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, they don't understand the pressures of being from a Desi household and how my parents were like going to kick my ass. They didn't even know I was at this event, so I had to rush back, and it was kind of a fail, but then kind of a win. So
Right. Was it Halo 1 or Halo 2?
it was actually Halo 4.
Halo 4. Okay, yeah. I forget how
Yeah,
recent this was. Oh man, I'm
yeah,
getting old.
yeah,
I was most active during the Halo 2 days. Halo 3 as well. Yeah. Halo is one of my favorite
yeah,
games ever.
yeah. Me too.
Challenges of being Daisy and a gamer at the same time are definitely there. And I think Hassan can
Hmm.
speak to that. But then definitely being a Daisy girl who's into gaming and wants to be part of that
Hmm.
community is so difficult, I'm sure. Yeah. Because you probably, you used to voice chat a lot, right? Even now, like
Oh
gaming,
yeah.
like voice chatting is an inherent part of gaming now, especially online gaming,
Yeah,
which is essentially taking over, right? Like single player games are not
absolutely.
mainstream anymore as they used to be. It used to be like even 10, 20 years ago when games came out, the campaign mode was the main, like the multiplayer was just a side piece. It was just like cherry on top. But now it's like the opposite.
Mhm.
People buy games for the multiplayer.
I think it really depends on your style of gaming. Like a couple of games have just come out that are very heavily like single player, like Red Dead Redemption, and then a new Spider game. They're both single player, and they're really,
Mm-hmm.
really popular. But it really just depends on what you're looking for. Some people are more in
Mm-hmm.
tune with single player games. You know, they have the type of lifestyle where they're tired from work or something. They just want to come home, you know,
Right.
take a load off and just play something that doesn't require a lot of brain power because let me tell you this, playing competitively, and I'm sure Hassan can tell you this as well, it drains a lot of energy. Like it takes a lot of mental power to focus that much for that long. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on your preference. But
Yeah.
for me personally, I was always a multiplayer type of person. I'm like, I don't care about the campaign, just let me play, you know.
Yeah, there's a dedicated esports channel now on cable, right? I used to watch competitive gaming, especially during the Halo days, right? Halo 3 when it was really popular back then. And watching those tournaments, especially the main tournaments, the Major League Gaming tournaments, those guys used to yell like their life was on the line. Dude, what are you doing? Dude, are you stupid? And I'd be like, whoa, man, I'm competitive, but I've never been part of that type of just pressure. I guess I've never played competitively in that aspect. I've always found that shocking. It is very
Uh,
stressful, I'm sure.
like I think in a couple of other countries, it's like a culture to be really good at games. They spend a lot of time. Like I think North Korea, South Korea, it's almost like a very intense culture. They practice, you know, I don't even know how many
Yeah.
hours a day, and it's a lot on the line. And another thing is like these esports competitions, they have a big prize pool, so it's almost worth it to keep,
Hmm.
you know, like a kind of a career in this type of field. It's relatively new. A lot of people don't understand it. Oh, how can you have a career
Yeah.
in esports? How can you have a career playing games? But it's certainly possible now more than ever.
Yeah, I want to learn more about that. I know there's like millions of dollars on the line now for winning some of these tournaments. I was pretty shocked to learn that myself. I didn't, it grew so quickly, I guess. Like when I was big in gaming, back in my high school
Hmm.
days, it was just like tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. It wasn't in the millions yet, I think, back then.
Yeah,
So,
some games are in the millions. League of Legends for sure, Dota.
damn.
So I'm sure Hassan can talk more about that in terms of like,
Yeah, Hassan, you have any comments on this? You don't have to stay quiet. Hassan, चुप्पी हो गया मेरे हमें सो तो नहीं गया.
um, oh, gaming has come a long way actually. From
Can you talk about the figures? Do you know how much money?
um, to talk about the figure, sure, but yeah, let's take a trip down to the past, to the 90s, where computers were actually up on the rise. You had the Windows, the first GUI interface, and all that stuff coming out. So
Yeah.
small games showed up. Like I still remember playing some of those classic games on Windows 95, 98. But then over time, there was this era between 99 to 2003 where 3D technology went on to a different level. So
Yeah.
that's where some of the greatest games came to life. Like the PlayStation came around the same era, the PlayStation original. The potential and graphics and 3D started to show up, and a lot of people were getting into computers, not just like today. Like every third person you know has studied computer science. So back then, it was like a huge deal if you knew about computers or you owned a computer store in anywhere. And computers were very expensive. I remember we paid a lot of money to get my first computer, and then came the era where internet came. It was like, oh my god, I'm talking to someone like back home, dude. This is so cool. And the MSN Messenger, everything was going up. So video games showed up at the same time. But thing about was back then, you didn't have that much of good internet, so most of the games would be around single player experience like
Hmm.
Wolfenstein, yeah, the first Quake and all those games. So who knew that video games like competitive stuff could go this big?
Yeah.
Even right now, so I used to have a friend who used to work in market research 2 years back, and according to him, that's around 2013. He told me the video games and the esports competitive industry is gonna be bigger than the movie Hollywood industry in the upcoming 20 years. video games make more money
They already
than
do, yeah.
movies do. Yeah,
Yeah.
and some of the movies are even inspired from video games. I mean, I could name you some. Prince of Persia, the Hitman movie. They're all inspired from video games.
Like if you do the calculation right here, an average game, new game, is about $60 in the US. And gaming companies can easily sell 1 million copies, right? I did the math before. So that's $60 million right there for basically just about an average game.
You have to remember this. A lot of games also have in-game purchases, like they, if you want cosmetic items. Yeah,
Yeah.
microtransactions are
Oh,
a
that's a
huge
total
thing in a lot
different
of games.
level of ripping off customers. I think.
That's a whole other hot topic.
And then there came a time when internet changed completely. So you had faster internet suddenly. So if you wanted to play a multiplayer game, you have to go to a network so you're all 6 or 10 computers connected to each other. So you could all play without any problem. Otherwise, there was no damn good internet. At least in the Middle East that you could play online games without any
Mhm.
problem. And then that's where things got interesting. A lot of big games started to show up, like games which actually became competitive, like Unreal, and then Counter Strike, like the oldest game in the history. Then came Call of Duty, like
Right.
it's also a really big franchise. Call of
Hmm.
Duty, which was like at its top in 2009, 2010, because they had really good writers, so everyone wanted to play
Hmm.
COD.
Yeah, and then out of the consoles, Microsoft was the first one to kind of pick up online gaming, right? Xbox kind of started that.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the thing which changed everything. So PlayStation didn't have something exclusive, and Xbox comes with a really good console. Or you could use your Hotmail ID to play games. How cool is that? Back then, like, so things started to change, and over time, video games, people started to take it as a hobby or as a luxury if you could afford, because consoles were expensive, computers were expensive, buying games
Hmm.
was expensive. So people took it as sort of a luxury on the weekend. And when internet improved, people actually realized that this is something which is going to change lives basically. So I
Yeah.
remember the first tournament I played, I won 100 dirhams, and that was the prize. And there were like 30 players. We were playing on small CRT monitors. I think I was in grade 6 or grade 7. Dude, 100 dirhams was a lot of money if you won it. So we were like, oh, dude, you're going to win 100 dirhams if you win this. So we decided to play. And really back then, you used to enjoy that money because, you suddenly have so much money that you don't know what to do with that money.
Right.
It's like I was like I thought 10 days. How do I spend 100? I mean, I've lived through all of it from winning 100 dirhams to maybe now you win a tournament, you win like 1 million dirhams or $1 million.
Right.
And it's just amusing the amount of talent the upcoming generation, which is like born into technology, the way
Hmm.
they perceive technology is much better than us. So young people are getting into it, and a lot of universities are also looking into esports management. So it's basically an industry of its own, and it's the same way how teams work. It's the same way as football clubs work. It's technically the same idea.
Yeah, it's being treated like an actual,
Yeah, it's an actual sport.
an actual sport. Yeah. Yeah, there's like a gym and everything. Yeah, there's a documentary on this famous Halo gamer. His name was Walshy.
Oh yeah, I know him. I know him. Yeah, yeah.
I guess he did an interview and he walked these guys through his daily life, and he walked them to his house, I guess, to his garage. And that garage
Okay.
is where basically he practices games. And so the way they did that documentary was so professional sounding. He took them to the garage and he was like, yeah, this is where I busted out 8, 9 hours a day, 40 plus hours a week. And I was just like, this guy's making it look like he did some bench presses in there, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he treated that garage like an actual gym for practicing. And I guess at that level, you have to. It was just
No,
amazing
yeah,
even back then.
I feel like, at a point when you're competing at that level, it becomes compulsory to put in those hours. And then at a point, even when you don't want to
Mhm.
play, you still have to put in those hours and you have to practice and scrim with the team, go over gameplay, go over recordings. So in that sense, I do understand that, it is a lot of effort and you have to put in the time
Mhm.
because you're competing for so much money.
Right. But I wonder, it might be a good question for both of you, actually. Does it Like,
Mhm.
I know, especially Hassan puts in a lot of hours to practice for tournaments. Is it fun at that point? Because that's my concern. I don't want to lose my passion for something because it starts feeling like a job. That's what I was
Mhm.
afraid of. So I never gamed like above 3 hours a day. That was my limit basically. But then again, I never went competitive to that extent. But Hassan, have you ever experienced like relapse from gaming?
Like a burnout. Yeah.
Yeah, burnout. Yeah.
Okay, first things first. When you talk about players who actually compete, it's either they compete for a few reasons. Number one, either they're super good at it or they're like naturally born players. So best example, if you look at Korea right now, they produce one of the best players in the world in MOBA and some of the other games. And if you look at Europe, they produce one of the best FPS players in the world. Because right now it's part of their lives, it's part of their culture that if you get the hang of it, you can actually excel at it. But for me, I grew up in Dubai all my life, and I like, of course, my parents are not like parents in America or anywhere else in the world. We are like very close to Pakistan, so our lifestyle is very different. So you know how the desi culture works. You gotta work. You gotta get a good job. When you talk about this, there are a couple of things. First of all, some people are in the industry for money. So a good example would be people. How do you make money in esports industry? So the players are only the side, the people who actually put a lot of hard work in the back. So you have the production, you have the stream, you have the commentators, you have the analyst. So people who get into it are actually people who actually look into making money. But as far as from, I could say, from players, the rush of winning and self accomplishment of you put in a lot of hours into something, and then you get that reward, it's that kind of a feeling. But on the top of it, if you ask me, I play for my
Mhm.
passion. Like, it was my dream to be the best
Mhm.
player in the region or whatever, my country. But that's what keeps me has like kept me going for the last maybe decade. And
Wow.
maybe when this is over, maybe I'll stop. But you do get burned out. There are days you're not gonna be playing your A game. Maybe you're struggling with life. Maybe you're not eating well. So
Yeah.
those days are gonna happen, and it's natural.
Have you taken a break from gaming, like a few weeks or a few months?
A couple of times, yeah, because I was basically living a double life. So it's like I would study in the morning and at night I would be playing games. So I would put that everywhere. So like a gamer at night, student by day.
Same.
So that was my life
Hmm.
for all my university life. So you can imagine how hard it is to manage both of them and
Yeah.
be able to keep a balance, which is literally it's impossible. And I was never good at keeping the balance anyways. So there were times, I think I was in grade 11 and my grades were going down, so I took a step back for a couple of months, and I don't know, it was just, it's like a drug. If you're away from it, you just feel okay, something isn't right in life.
Hmm.
So I took a break for a couple months, and just like a few days back, yeah, it's natural because we are born in an era which was completely different. So if you ask a 10-year-old, 12-year-old today
Hmm.
about all of it, and if he tells you, "Oh, I'm gonna compete, I'm gonna be a big gamer," everyone's gonna be like, "Yeah, go for it." For us, it wasn't. We didn't have a choice. So if you wanted to do it for yourself, you had to do it by force. And I say that
Right.
again and again. Like, we had no support. We would go to tournaments from, I don't know. We would save money. We would borrow money from each other and go to lands because the entry fee for sometime too so high. You couldn't afford you couldn't afford food at the tournament, so you had to go hungry.
Hmm. Yeah.
Our era was very different.
Especially with Desi parents. I think even now the challenges are still there with Desi parents who are basically parents of like 10-year-olds. But especially back then, there was zero understanding for if you wanted to be a serious gamer or say like I want to build a career off of gaming and stuff. Your parents were like, "Get the hell out of here! Go become a doctor already."
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Me and my parents were never that close. And I wouldn't even talk to my father because every time he would see me playing, he would just scream at me. Every time my mom came into the room, she would scream at me.
Yeah. How old were you back then?
I was like 14, 15. They
Oh
went
yeah.
on till I was 18 or 19, unless I was in
Hmm.
uni. That was the same problem. So
Hmm.
it was very hard. Like, you come in, you're playing with your team, or Once remember I was in the middle of a tournament and my dad came into my room and he took my PC. I was
Oh,
so mad. I was so mad that day.
yeah, that's definitely an extreme example. I think a lot of people can relate to that. You can't pause a game, right? That concept, parents don't really understand. Like, hey, I'm playing a live game. I can't pause this.
Now they kind of understand that. Alhamdulillah, now it's fine. Like I'm at home. They usually see me playing late at night, in the morning, so they kind of keep their cool now because I just listen to them when they need me. But yeah, it was very hard to keep a balance. It's definitely really
I
hard.
think even for casual gamers, even with casual gamers, desi parents don't understand because I was not super competitive in the sense that I went to tournaments and I had to practice with the team. In fact, every time someone asked me to team, even for an online tournament, I'm like, no, I don't know my schedule. I don't know when my mama is gonna be like, hey, you gotta make chai. Ya khana banao. You know what I mean? They don't. So
Right.
it literally was like, I cannot team. I can't do anything. I'm sorry. I can just play whenever I can. My mom's chill in general, but my dad, anytime he would see me playing, oh my gosh, he'd get so mad. And I had a bad habit of just playing into the night because you really don't realize how much time has gone by when you're playing and you're just really into it and you're having fun. And this is like a daily occurrence for me. Like this was, a hobby of mine, and especially since I grew up with three brothers, it's not like I was super feminine growing up. So
No, I was going to ask you, like, are your brothers gamers as well? Like, as much as you?
they are gamers, but so when we were all younger, we had to share one Xbox, so it's four of us, okay? Four of
Hmm.
us fighting to play one Xbox. So you can probably imagine that that thing never shut off. Like we burned it to the ground because we would just rotate who would get to play. And then eventually, like since I'm the third child, so like when my brothers like grew up and they had to go to university and stuff like that, I used to play more, and I still play the most. I think out of I think no, we all play, but we play different. So I would play multiplayer games. My brother plays like his NBA game, and then my other
Uh-huh.
brother plays a single player game, and then my
Ah,
other
okay.
brother plays like a fighting game. So we're all kind of like
Into different types of games.
yeah, yeah. So now it's not as oh, it's my turn to play or whatever. But even now, my dad, like, I'm 25, I have a job. My dad's like, you got to stop playing games. It's a waste of time. But one thing I will give him credit for is like, he never gave me the whole girls aren't supposed to play games argument. Like, luckily, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I was going to ask that, yeah.
Yeah, like, cause he knew about my upbringing. He knew that I was, like around boys all the time, and this is my hobby, this and that. So he would never say
Hmm.
like, oh, you're supposed to keep the house. You're not. This is not a girl type of activity. Luckily, he never said that to me,
That's good, yeah.
even though it probably come up to other people. But yeah, I still get bugged to this day.
Hmm.
And the funny thing is, I don't think it's something I can give up.
Hmm. Yeah, in your case, because you're a casual gamer, you had other responsibilities. You were going to school and now you have a job, and it's not like you fell short of any of those goals. So that's good. Whereas in Hassan's
Hmm.
case, he's a more serious gamer, so it might be more difficult for him to kind of prove his case, right? Especially at this age, he's 25.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a battle. It's definitely a battle, especially at this,
Yeah,
around this time in your mid 20s, to have to explain to your parents, like, hey, I still want to grow a career in gaming.
yeah, exactly. Like I think it's gonna take a very, very long time before they see parents are even open to the idea. Like, oh, you want to play, competitive esports. I don't think it's gonna happen for a very long time that they'll be open to it. But there is actually one player, and I'm sure a lot of people know about him. His name is Sumail, and he won like I don't know, $1 million or $2 million playing Dota, and he was only 15. He was from Pakistan. He was so good at the game
Wow.
that they grabbed him from Pakistan, flew him over to the U.S. They put him in a gaming house, and then he played for I forgot, I think the American team. I don't know where exactly,
Wow.
but he won a couple of $1 million, and I was like, wow, represent. He's from Pakistan. Good for him.
Well, that's really cool.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt really proud.
It's tough. It's tough because I'm trying to understand the parents' perspective as well. Compare gaming to professional sports, right? So let's say a basketball
Mhm,
player or a football player. So lots of kids grow up nowadays and they want to become a professional. Like, I want to go into the NBA or the NFL.
mhm,
There's a certain point where parents are like, they might try to be super supportive of that goal. But then if you haven't made
mhm,
it by a certain age, they might just be like, hey, son, or daughter, we got to get you a real career.
mhm,
And I guess it's just about knowing, from the parents' perspective, it's just about, I guess, giving support when
mhm,
they see that potential in their child from the parents' side. But then from the kids' side, it might be
mhm,
good to kind of like know where the line is. Like, if I haven't made it by a certain point, then maybe I should just look on to, different opportunities in life.
Mhm.
It's definitely a tough shot because, the NBA, there's only a certain number of players that can get in. No matter how good you are, and you might be really good. Lots of it often comes down to unfair advantages like connections and, being at the right place at the
Mhm.
right time. It sucks,
Mhm.
but I'm sure e-gaming is like that too.
Yeah, in Pakistan, people do have, resources, but obviously not as much as other countries. And that's the thing, you have to think about how the mindset that they see parents are in from the get-go. They have a very, very straight point of view about life. Okay, you grow up, you have a respectable career, doctor, lawyer, engineer, something of that sort. It'll be so
Right.
hard to break them from the mold and have them be open to something. Even professional sports, like my parents were just like, oh, we don't, Pakistani people aren't really built to handle physical contact, so don't try to like play, hardcore basketball or something. He would tell my brothers this. So
Hmm.
it's going to take a while before they are open to non-traditional, I guess, unorthodox career choices like this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll take a few generations. But maybe Hassan's right. Hassan mentioned, like nowadays 10-year-olds, their parents are a little bit more understanding of how serious gaming can be, or at least they at least know what live gaming is.
No, it's funny that you mentioned that because Fortnite is so big that parents have started hiring coaches for their children
Holy
so
crap,
they can
really?
get good at. Yeah, yeah. There's a news article.
That's a job, Fortnite coach?
Yeah.
Oh man. No, I wouldn't be surprised if they see parents pick up on that as well. Because parents are changing. Even they see parents are changing.
Yeah, because more people like you are becoming parents. That's why.
Exactly.
Ah,
Exactly.
Wink,
yeah.
wink.
It's a new
Hello.
generation of desi.
No, Hassan is absolutely right. Yeah, because now the parents are actually younger and they're trying to be cooler as well, right? You got to get along
Mhm.
with your kids.
Well, yeah, you have to think about it this way. Like, us three, we grew up in an era where gaming is, one of our hobbies. So when I grow up, I'm gonna be that parent that's gonna get a gaming system. I'm gonna probably fight my children to play it. Maybe I get off, it's my turn. I'm probably gonna be one of those parents. But at the same time, you have to remember where their kind of concern stems from. Because if you spend way too much time
Yeah,
gaming and losing sleep over it and you don't focus on your studies, it can hinder your career and your schooling and everything. So I think it's all about balance at the end of the day and not getting too
definitely.
carried. As is with everything else, like any hobby. If you watch Netflix all day, but there is no difference between playing games at night and watching Netflix at night. It's just an activity.
Hmm.
So when I used to tell my parents, I'm like, Mom and Dad, like, sure, you don't want me to play games, but what's the difference if I just spend that time watching, YouTube or like watching Netflix? Like, why do you have such a problem with gaming? You know?
Right.
So it all comes down to balance and how you spend your time. And that's why primarily that's like the concern that Daisy parents have. Like, oh, this person, my kid's gonna spend way too much time playing games and not focus on studies and this and that. But I think, our generation's not gonna be that strict, hopefully, because we understand.
In fact, you could argue that wasting your time, like everybody needs downtime. I think it's an important part of your life. And there's like research to prove
Mhm.
that. So you need that time to watch Netflix or just slack off and watch YouTube videos and stuff. But I could
Mhm.
also argue that gaming is more effective than that stuff because gaming is an exercise. It's a mental exercise. And it's been proven to
Absolutely.
improve your brain functionality, to improve your reflexes and things like that. So,
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because I was watching a video and there's a university and they're putting a lot of funding. The neuroscientists are putting a lot of funding and trying to figure out if they can use gaming as a form of therapy. So, there's definitely
wow. Yeah.
different and emerging uses to gaming. And it's not, I don't think it's all such a waste of time. You're just like a zombie. I think definitely your hand eye coordination is dramatically improved playing games. We actually did an experiment in high school where I was a gamer and my friend ran track, so she had really good auditory reflexes, whereas I had really good visual because she was used to hearing the gunshot to go sprint for her track meets,
Hmm.
and I was used to playing games and like being able to respond quickly to visual cues. So I don't
Hmm.
think it's an entirely waste of. I don't think it makes you dumb or anything like that. I don't think it makes you lose brain cells. There's definitely some positives that we can
Right.
get backed up by studies and stuff.
Yeah, I guess where I would draw the line is like people who are gaming like 24 hours straight and not getting sleep, and that's where it becomes extremely unhealthy.
Oh, actually, that's
Yeah.
how it is in Asia. It's the same thing in Malaysia. So I had a chance to visit Malaysia like a few years back. So I was quite shocked to see the environment in where people game. So you would be shocked that there's a cafes open. People go in, play. As soon as the cafe closes, they would put their blankets outside and sleep. As soon as they would open, they would go back again in the morning.
Holy.
That was what I saw in Malaysia, and I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
That's real. Like, and that was few years back, 2014, something like that.
Mhm.
So that's the amount of that's the level where you have to realize, oh, okay, I need to take a shower, I need to eat, and then I can do my job. And on the top of it,
Yeah.
something new showed up was streaming. A lot of people make money from streaming as well, so that's kind of a new thing. I
Mhm.
haven't heard a desi kid saying, "Oh,
Absolutely.
mera beta the streaming karke paise banata." I haven't heard that in a while, but I guess that's gonna be soon as well.
Yeah, yeah. But say, by the way, are there more examples besides the one that Saf gave over that 15-year-old who won the Dota tournament? Are there other successful Pakistanis?
Yeah, there's a professional Tekken 7 player. His name is Arsalan. He recently won the biggest tournament in Middle East, and he beat the number one Korean on LAN.
Oh,
Wow.
wow, nice.
He's considered to be the god of the game, and that he actually destroyed him. That's something.
Wow, nice.
And I put this point out there. Hello, there's an entire Asia out there which has more talent, maybe more than Chinese or Korean players. So why
Mhm.
there's a favoritism? And the
Mhm.
response was quite interesting as well. So I mean, there's a lot to come, honestly.
Yeah, in Korea, there's probably a lot more analogs of kids who've won tournaments, and that stands as a
Yeah, it's an entire culture.
yeah, exactly. Like your neighbor down the street might be a very successful Dota player who's won millions of
Mhm.
dollars. So that's motivation for all the parents living in that block to support their kids when they're taking their shots, right?
Mhm.
We need to, I guess, create more
It's
examples.
really hard to comment on Korea. I don't know. Their culture is very different from the rest of the world. As far as China is
Yeah.
concerned, so in China, Dota is treated like what we treat cricket in Pakistan as. So the ministers will come to the event, and it's going
Wow.
to be a major scale event. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how it is. So they treat it as like Dota is like it's like they have big arenas. There's ministers show up, also celebrities show up. So that kind of
it's like a real sport, over
exactly.
there. People actually,
And we're talking 2015, 2016. So imagine the scale now.
yeah.
Gonna be-
Yeah. Yeah, and we need to get out of this mindset, I guess, that gaming is only meant for kids. I think people are starting to understand that, especially in
Oh,
non-Desi
yeah.
culture. But in Desi culture, it's like my mom, if you asked my mom about what she thinks of gaming and me, like at this age, 29, gaming, even now, she'd be like, you know, you need to grow up
Mhm.
at some point.
Yeah, like I mentioned, it's just your free time can be used to, engage in any activity that you want. And for some people, it's gaming. For some people, it's just relaxing and reading a book. So, it's not fair to say, oh, gaming, you should grow out of it. Why should I grow out of it? Then other people should grow out of, watching TV or watching dramas or something. So luckily now, people are really understanding that like the older you get doesn't necessarily mean you have to give up gaming. Older people play games all the time. I'm sure,
Mhm.
I can't give you numbers, but I'm sure they account for a significant portion of the market. So, and some people go out of it, it's because of their choice. But I don't think people should tell someone like, "Oh, you're older now." Even though I've been told this time and time again by my parents, they're like, "Oh, you're older now, you shouldn't play games anymore." I'm like, why? It's just my pastime activity. I can do whatever I want with my free time. So,
Yeah, right. And like I said, we need more analogs like, successful Pakistani tourney winners and people who can set an example for the upcoming generations. If you don't let your kids do it, then you'll never get those figures. And we'll never be able to get that
yeah,
spotlight,
exactly.
especially for Pakistan, who definitely needs spotlights in as many categories as possible. So if your
Hmm.
kids like to
Yep.
game, you should let them do it.
Yeah.
What would you say are your top, like, 3 favorite games of all time? I can say Halo is definitely my top. Halo because I've
Same.
just put in the most hours into it. I just love Halo, the entire series.
I was actually just watching the Halo 5 championships just today. So, I mean, I normally don't, but I was like, yeah, why not? Yeah, for me, it's definitely Halo, Overwatch. Definitely, I've been playing Overwatch. Gears of War, really fun.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed was good.
Do you have an Xbox or a PC?
I played on Xbox for almost in my whole entire life, and then I think like last year I switched over to PC.
Nice. Yeah. I understand the whole PC, master race concept. My only gripe there
Mhm.
is though the PC does have the better, I think, long-term value, but the exclusives do make the consoles worth it. The consoles do still have exclusives that a lot of people want.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, for example, I still love a good Nintendo game. Like, I love Super Mario, Donkey Kong,
Oh yeah.
But these
Pokemon.
are out on Nintendo Switch has brought all those games back, by the way. If you get a chance, you should
Time
buy
to
a
get
Nintendo
Switch.
Switch. Yeah, that thing is worth your every penny. I'm not even joking. I really
They're
wanted to
so
buy
fun.
one. I'm really
Yeah.
wanted to buy one as well.
It's such a nice throwback to, our earlier days in childhood. I think all three of us have been through it.
They actually
So,
brought back Spyro as well. If you've ever played that, for the
Spyro?
PS4, they
Really?
brought. Yeah, yeah. My brother
Oh,
has like
wow.
all three games on one disc or something like that. So he's always telling me about them, like the nostalgia.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, Halo, I grew up with Zelda, Ocarina of Time. I would definitely lay that as one of my top favorite games of all time.
So there's one game I would always remember, Midnight Club 3 and Prince of Persia. Those are my all-time favorite.
Oh, Midnight
Yeah,
Club, okay.
I used to love Splinter Cell, Prince of Persia. Such kind of games were like my jam. I used to
Yeah,
play
stealth games. Yeah, stealth I definitely had a soft
Oh,
spot
those are
for.
really fun.
Grand Theft Auto and all that stuff was good too, but these games were like, you love
Mhm.
them. I really like those.
Gaming is really universal because there's a game out there for everybody. If you're into hard, there are
Yeah.
hard games.
That's true.
If you're into sports games, yeah, there's FIFA, there's NBA, there's Madden, everything.
There are like 100 categories out there. So there's an RPG, there's like a simulation, there's a game made for esports, there a game went for just for your living room. I mean, what
Mhm.
else? Yeah, VR, all sorts of stuff is out there now.
Yeah, you can
Mhm.
find something for everyone pretty much. They've
Yeah,
really expanded their. Yeah, people still play board games, okay? People play board games on family night. That's still.
Mhm. I gotta say, Hassan
Yeah.
mentioned RPG Maker earlier, and RPG
Yeah.
Maker, I used like the 2000 version back then when I was a kid, like 12, 13 years old, to make my own RPGs off of it. And a big aspect of that game is to actually learn like light coding to build your
Oh,
world.
really?
So you could, yeah, you would use a little bit of coding to help the game understand, hey, when somebody walks in here, do this. So you could actually control the NPCs and create a story and stuff. And that was one of my first experiences with coding. And now, like
Oh, that's
today,
cool.
a big aspect of my job is coding. So that kind of helped me grasp an interest in that field as well. So there's a lot, there's a lot that it can open you up for.
I think a lot of people, like a lot of little kids, would be like, "Oh, I want to be like a video game designer when I want to grow up." So at least that was one of my dreams. I remember when I was young because I loved gaming so much. But yeah, it definitely opens
Yeah.
up their minds to these types of careers. And another thing that I want to mention is like the growth of women in gaming because it was almost, women and were few and far between long
hmm
ago.
I think the
There was like
ratio is
nobody.
something like 10:3 in terms of esports as well. 10:3, yeah,
And
something like
it was 10-3.
yeah, 10:3.
10 men to 3 girls? Huh. That's still that's a lot. That's actually more than I thought.
Because things is 2010 2012, so they always considered um like competitive as a male only.
Male dominant, yeah.
So yeah, male dominant. So over time, a lot of people spoke up, and there were some really good players who showed up, women of course. So now you might find some mixed teams as well. But on the pro scene, there are some of them as well. If you talk about Oroch, there's only one female player in the Oroch League. She's Chinese. So
Oh,
things
really?
are
Nice.
changing. Yeah,
Mhm.
things are actually changing.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not about how you look; it's how about how you play. Honestly, if you ask me. 'Cause-
Yeah.
so back then, like when we were young, so UA is a pretty small place. So we used to, oh, if I meet someone in game, oh, you live in my same city, hey, we should hang out. So we met a lot of people.
Yeah, some of my closest friends I've made through gaming.
Yeah, that's
A lot of people have like lasting like friendships
Wow.
with
Yeah.
people that they may have never met like in real
hmm
life. Like two of my closest friends are people I've met on Xbox. So
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think people shouldn't
hmm
knock it until they try it. There's probably something out there for everybody.
hmm
And the whole like with being a woman in gaming thing, yeah, I'll go into games and people act inappropriately. Then some people are respectful as well. It's just like it's whatever. I think
Right.
there's a lot more women that are getting into gaming now. There's actually a caster, like they're getting into all types of roles when it comes to gaming. They can be on the back end, operations, marketing, a couple of female casters as well. So they're really putting their foot out there and they're stepping into this kind of industry. It's really good to see.
It is good, yeah. And for everyone, like it's not. I think building a career out of esports doesn't necessarily have to mean as a player or as a big tournament winner.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
could, yeah, you could be a programmer, you could be an animator, a developer,
Hmm.
even a tester.
You could be a photographer, you could be
Yeah,
anyone because it's like an entire industry as I told you. So the
yeah.
production level is off like putting on something on TV.
Hmm.
So to put on something on TV, you're gonna need talented people.
Hmm.
Like you're gonna need people, you need cameramen, you need photographers, you need backstage crew, all sorts of people. So it's for everyone. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could get into, um, you could become a journalist, esports journalist. That's kind of a new thing. I
Hmm.
mean, which come up in like 3 4 years, and then streaming and all this stuff. So it's just big. I mean, it makes my heart like it gives me a good feeling that we've come a really long way from those
Hmm.
small
Hmm.
classroom.
Yeah, I think it definitely goes beyond. It goes beyond just, meeting your friends like house, hooking up a whole bunch of consoles together and playing. It's not just that anymore. There's full-blown
Yeah.
events that are broadcasted to the world, and it takes a lot more hands to make that happen. So, if
Hmm.
you're not a player, you're probably going to be doing something else. If I ever got the opportunity, I would go for it. Like if I had the opportunity to work for like a famous gaming company, I would definitely do it.
One thing which when I was going through school and everything, university and everything, sometimes even my mom she gets annoyed of me sitting in front of the PC. She goes like, "Oh, you spend your entire uni life studying MIS management. Why didn't you just learn how to make games?" I'm like, "Mom, I don't want to how to make games. I want to play the games."
Yeah, yeah. Everybody has different passions.
I was like,
That's
"I
important to
don't
remember.
want to make games. I want to
Yeah.
win. I want to make my country proud. I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to play the game." So I guess it's different for everyone, but I mean it's a really good thing in general. So and there's one thing people don't know about is there's a certain age to get into it, but there's no age to get out. There's always an age
Mm,
to get in, but there's no age to get out. Unlike sports, you get in at the age of 20, you retire at the age of 35. Bottom line.
yeah. But I think at the same time there's definitely an age where you can be at your prime. And then after a while, when the new kids start coming out, they have a lot more time to play. They just have a lot
I
more
think
energy to
so.
play.
Yeah.
They're going to edge you out eventually. And that's why a lot
Hmm.
of people, after their prime, and they start to see that they can't win that many tournaments anymore. And I've seen this at least in the Halo, like competitive Halo scene. They just kind of move away from the controller and they go into casting or they go into, making videos or
Yeah,
something like that.
because they have tons of experience, and that's like a really good thing because, as I said, there's no age to get out, but at a certain point, of course, you're gonna feel okay. Now my back is starting to hurt, and other factors
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
exactly.
you need to make a proper living. Even though esports, like as a player, it's a proper living, but
Hmm.
when you're into the production or the industry, it's totally different. I know some
Hmm.
people who just are into the industry because it's so much fun. You go around the world, you visit different places, free
You go to
stuff.
events and conventions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You go to different events, conventions, you're invited as a guest. So it's a different thing. And I mean, I've done it in the past too. I have a side like a side company. So we do events and so I usually get invited to most of the events in the country and it's like it's quite interesting to see how they treat players differently as people involved in that industry. Like as a player, of
Hmm.
course you're to get more, but if you are working in the industry there is a separate place for you now.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting to see. So again, like there's no age to get out, but over time, yeah, after you hit 30, 35, your reflexes will start to slow down. Yeah, because you're aging
Yeah.
and everything else. But you can still be
Hmm.
part of it. You could still
Yeah, you
be
can
a
still be part of the
streamer.
industry. It
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have to, just like completely switch. Okay, now I need to become an engineer. I mean, you can, but you can still connect to the industry
It's like
in
once you
some
get in,
capacity.
you're just too busy in it that you wouldn't want to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen this like firsthand with a lot of like people from, if you follow competitive sports, you'll see the same faces, years later. Like, oh, this guy used to be a professional player and now he's casting or he's coaching a team, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm. I think everybody deserves a shot at least because I really think the future of this world in general, it really depends on people who become influencers. So while I work in business, and there's lots of parents out there who want their kids to be engineers and doctors and stuff. That's great. The world needs those types of people. But really, like the people who are in charge of changing people's mindsets and kind of forming like innovations are influencers. So in the gaming world, those will be like gaming creators, tournament winners who make big names for themselves. Or outside of gaming, it'll be like vloggers and political activists who have like thousands, millions of followers on the internet. Those are the people who can influence a lot of people's opinions. And if we don't have enough of those in our Pakistani world, we'll get left behind. And we already are kind of getting left behind. So we need more of those like examples of tournament winners. And just, I think the bottom line would just be when I tell people here living abroad that I'm from Pakistan, I would much rather hear like, hey, oh yeah, you're from Pakistan. There's some kid who won a tournament and he was from Pakistan last, he just won last week versus like, hey man, sorry about what happened in Karachi the other day, there was an explosion or something. And, like I want to hear more positive things coming out.
Absolutely. And if it can be through gaming, then why not?
So I'll tell you guys a really interesting story. So I used to play online in the European scene. So I used to play in the European region and stuff. So I mean, I wouldn't really tell people I was from Pakistan because no one actually knew where Pakistan was. I mean, that's how Europeans are. They don't know.
Yeah.
So they always thought I was a rich Arab guy with a lot of oil money, driving Ferraris and stuff. There's one thing I would say. So since Sumail won that tournament, I mean, we have that feeling of pride as players. So if someone asks you where you're from, I'm like, we are Pakistani. So I'm like, well, do you have any pro players? I'm like, hell yeah, we do have good players out there. So there's kind of a feeling of pride at the same time. Like you're happy. Oh, there's someone from my country was one day. So really good feeling. I mean, and there's so many good players showing up now that everyone is amazed. I'm like, what? Pakistan can produce good players? That's insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in Pakistan, but they just need the opportunity.
Yeah, they just need to be enabled. Exactly.
Absolutely. There's a lot of talent in Pakistan, and it's not limited to just video games. It's, spreads out everything that you can imagine. They just need the right resources.
And those of you don't know, I mean, a lot of you kids or a lot of listeners who back home know Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 5. Oh, you guys never knew. The executive producer behind Grand Theft Auto 5 is a Pakistani. Look him up. His name is Imran Sarvat. If you guys didn't see the credits, he's in the credits. And that's when I found out. I'm like, wait, hold on. I was finishing the game for the first time. Like, wait, hold on. That's a very Paki name. And then I'm looking him up on LinkedIn, and it turns out he's a Pakistani guy who is actually from Lahore, and then he moved to the States. And he had and he was the executive producer of Grand Theft Auto 5, which is what they say
it's one of the most popular games,
one of the best-selling games in the world.
Yeah.
So there you go. Pakistan is full of surprising people. So.
Yeah, we just need to get out of that engineer, doctor, that mindset. Let people do what they want.
Yeah. It's definitely like Pakistanis in the mix, we give them more opportunities and they can actually do something like Sumail did.
So thanks, Saf. Thanks, Hassan.
No problem.